Great days start with great underwear. So if you're looking for something special, give Tommy John and gift a better day. Everything we make is meticulously crafted from breathable stretch fabric for the perfect fit, including our sleepwear for him and her. It feels good to give, but it feels great to give Tommy John. Find something for everyone and pick up something for yourself, because at Tommy John, greatness is in our very fabric. Shop Tommy John's Black Friday sale now. Save 30% site-wide at TommyJohn.com/Spotify. See site for details.
Right now, I got a new ebook out, so I'll tell you about that. It's about the recession, because the recession is going to hit us across the world. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be mild. I recently did a television episode on C-Suite TV with All Business with Jeffrey Hayzlett. It's the name of the show. It's also a podcast and TV show. And I interviewed 5 economists and a futurist and asked them about what's happening with this upcoming recession. They're all saying it's going to be fairly mild, but even in a mild recession, you could have ups and downs. But what I learned, in most recessions, there's great opportunity. So the name of the book is How to Survive the Recession, Never Waste a Good Crisis. So you can go there, you can go to the website, the c-suitenetwork.com, and download the book, ebook, it's free ebook. And I got about 40 or 50 contributors in that ebook too, with great ideas from these wonderful thought leaders who contributed to the book to say, here's a suggestion.
Welcome to the Manage Self, Lead Others Leadership Podcast with Nina Sunday for experienced and aspiring people managers. This show will help you explore ways to become a more intentional leader. Each episode, host Nina Sunday speaks with some of the brightest business minds on the planet who share a passion to elevate and transform team culture. Workplace culture hides in plain sight. Is yours flourishing? Join the movement to make your workplace a better place to work. Are you ready? Because it's time to manage self, lead others.
My name is Nina Sunday, host of Manage Self, Lead Others podcast. This episode, I welcome repeat guest Jeffrey Hayzlett, the founder and CEO of the C-Suite Network, former Chief Marketing Officer at Eastman Kodak, and a primetime host on Bloomberg. Jeffrey and I talk about Hayzlett's updated version of his seminal work, The Mirror Test, and discuss Hayzlett's 3 key elements of leadership: improvisation, talent, and bottom line results. Welcome, Jeffrey Hayzlett. And I do appreciate this repeat conversation with you, Jeffrey, because I know you've got a lot on your plate.
Love it. Love doing it.
So welcome back, and thank you for a repeat episode on Manage Self, Lead Others. And we'll be talking about the updated edition of your book, The Mirror Test. But I've also been listening to the audiobook version while I was driving, and it's a great listen. Not only is it informative with lots of great principles, but you tell some stories that are just ridiculous jokes, really. You do write that you're the guy who does things most are not willing to say or do. So how did you push your company and yourself to think differently?
Just by being myself. I think that's the biggest thing. And I've always found, ever since I was little, to tell the truth as much as you can, right? And to be direct and, or to rip off the Band-Aid. If you do it fast, it's a lot better, right, than doing it really slow. I've been known for that on television. I've been known for that on broadcast, podcasting, radio, all the things I've done. And I've certainly been known for it in the C-suite, where I sit on boards and sit on companies and in companies where like, hey, and I just say what I think, and it's just a lot easier to get it out.
And having said that, Jeffrey, underpinning everything you do is a great sense of care for the humanity of people. And that's something that in my experience with you in the C-suite for 2.5 years, and before that at National Speakers Association, your care of people and your wanting to lift others up is just astounding, and I applaud you.
I thank you for that. Well, but if you rise them, you rise, so we all rise together. And I just remember what my mom taught me, and and more my mom than my dad about that, and just treat people the way you want to be treated. And I grew up in a very poor family. I grew up with not a lot, and it was tough, and I had tough times, didn't feel like I was worthy enough, like a lot of people. And, Most people wouldn't believe that because, I remember one time somebody said, "Gee, what would you like to be when as a professional speaker?" And they said, "I'd like to have the eloquence of Les Brown and the swagger of Jeffrey Hayzlett." So I've always walked with this kind of swagger, but most people would know that I didn't have that when I was younger. I felt, inadequate and all the other things, and for whatever variety of reasons, but somehow at some point I outgrew that. Somebody said, one time I was giving a speech to a bunch of celebrities on how to basically, I was hired by a big talent agency to come in and talk to people about how to build the brand of you. And they said, "Jeff, what do you do when you hear that little voice?" And I said, "What little voice?" And they said, "That little voice in the back of your head telling you you're not worthy." I said, "I stopped listening to that voice a long time ago."
And you know what? I replace it with another voice that says you are worthy and you are good enough. Well, you do talk about in the book about for leaders. I really focused on the leadership chapter because this is Manage Self, Lead Others.
Yep.
And you say that just because you like to do something doesn't mean that's where you should spend your time. That's what you do best. And to work out what you can delegate and grow your business by delegating what you can.
Yeah. Yeah, people say, tell a lot of leaders, "Oh, follow your passion." No, don't do that because you might not be, one, real good at it, and two, might not pay. So, but find the things you're really good at and what you do, and then focus and I did another podcast interview today where I talked about a great deal about what makes a great leader, and part of that is listening, really truly listening and understanding. And the other thing is to delegate out the things you don't do. He had this great saying, automate, delegate, eliminate, and I do that every day.
Yes.
And I try to delegate everything I can. I make a list of things that I can go do, and then get it to a person that can then exponentially take care of it. Like, mailing letters to ops or to opportunities, mailing out, key touch points I want to do with people. Like today, I did probably 200 or 300 letters to different people, all individualized, all, separate based on certain criteria. Well, if it had taken me most of the day for me to do that, that's not where I should be spending my time, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so you learn early, you learn, not necessarily early, you learn that's painful, and you might be comfortable at it, you might feel like you should do it, but you shouldn't be doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you do touch on strategy in an unusual way. You talk about ready, fire, aim. Don't waste an opportunity, and always wait to aim. So, can you talk to that?
Yeah, well, I think I've talked to so many thought leaders and business leaders who are building their website or building this or doing this, and they want to make it perfect, and they work forever to get perfect. Meanwhile, they passed up all these great opportunities and the chances for people to find them, to do business, to have greater reach, discovery, greater conversion, and all because in the name of making it perfect. My idea is, no, get it done. And then once done, strive for perfect. I think, a little ready, fire, aim is good, right? You just go and try to figure it out, sometimes, because I don't wake up, every day thinking I have every answer. So I got to go find it. I got to go explore, so I have to have the sense of what I would call awareness, or being unaware of not knowing what I don't know. And I try to live that. I try to live where I don't always know what I don't know. No, there's certain things I know because I've had a lot of experience. I bought and sold over 250 businesses, $25 billion in transaction. I used to manage a budget of $17 billion in marketing and ad spend. I've had my own television shows. I had my own television network, my own podcast network. So there's certain things I know, but there are a lot of things there's more things I don't know.
And of course, you take action and you can self-correct as you go. So that's really great.
Well, I have one of my favorite sayings. I don't know if it's in that book or but no one's gonna die. Like hey folks, in our decision today that we do to make the website go live, to get the brochure done, to send the first letter out, which three versions later you find out there was a mistake in it. Did anyone die? No one died. And as long as no one died, then what the heck? Go for it. It's okay. It's okay.
Now, at the same time, you write that even action-oriented people must learn to be reflective. And what can happen to action-oriented leaders who don't stop to reflect on what's happening?
You'll miss lots of opportunities without question, because or you won't extract all the value you possibly can. I mean, there's a long list of things, right? Mm. When you find or you set it up wrong, you charge ahead without, leave money on the table. It's all of these things that we can add up to, right? That will be a problem. When you're reflecting and you take time to sit down and think, like I love going back home to South Dakota where I live out in the middle of the prairie, and I'm on the back of a tractor and I'm just driving around. I got my headphones on, listening to country western music, and I'm just on the back of a tractor mowing grass or doing something. I always make sure I take a pen and paper with me because I'm always writing stuff down because I have so much time to think.
And you're so right, because on the odd occasion where I went, I'll remember that. And then I go, what was that thought? I'm
exactly,
struggling to get it back. So you got to capture it while it's there.
Yeah, that's important. Act in the moment. I mean, that's another thing for a leader, right? Is to act in that moment. Because if you don't, sometimes those brilliant ideas, they just pass you by, Because
you do say go with your gut and don't second guess yourself. So Is that a little risky? I mean, or is it just part of thinking differently?
No, I guess you could say it's risky if you don't trust your instincts, don't trust yourself, but trust yourself. For most of us, we know that when we acted outside of our gut, it always has cost us in some way, shape, or form. So listen to your inner being, listen to your every sense on your body, the hairs on your arm, the tingliness on your skin. It's telling you, no way, or yeah, that's good. Yeah. And we know it, it's there. But sometimes because of the little voice or whatever whatever we think it should be, or someone else told us it should be, that we don't act on it.
You have a few lists, and one of the lists is 6 rules to remember. And the one that jumped out at me was remember mood is everything. And we're talking about the mood of your people in your organization. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
I love that one. Thank you for bringing that up. We have to set the cadence of our business. And everybody talks about focusing on culture, which culture is important without question, but it takes a long time to build culture. But if you focus on mood, you have a greater impact faster in changing the mood. And it's easier to change the mood than it is to change the culture. So I always tell people when I first step into a business, let's focus on the mood. Let's focus on how people feel. If I have everybody in the business who feel that our best days are behind us, there's nothing that I can do to bring them into the present. And it's going to be a long, long haul. So what I do is I really spend a great deal of time changing the mood of the business, to make them feel like, hey, we can win, we can do these things. Then that will impact culture. That'll impact the bottom line. That'll impact the top line. And that'll get us where we want to go a lot faster. Now, but you have to, just by throwing parties and doing, different things. I'm not talking about all those things, although some of that stuff helps, building teamwork, building camaraderie, and then speeding up that cadence, because I think it's important. Cadence is an important thing as well. But you just have to really spend a lot of time on focusing on that mood. What's got everybody where they're at? And you start solving the problems.
And would you have conversations one-on-one with people, or is it you can work it out just by a group meeting, or?
Well, it's a continual thing, right? It's, like, let me give you a good example at Kodak. One of the things at Kodak was when I first got there, they had rechanged the logo like a year or two before I got there. But yet I was walking around, everybody had these old name badges on with the old logo. But all the new people that we were hiring all got brand new name badges with new logos on them. And so you could tell who the old ones were and the new ones were. And not a cool thing when you're trying to really bring about camaraderie and teamwork. So right away, it was like that. So I walked around, with a pair of scissors everywhere I went, threatening to cut everybody's name badge if I saw an old logo. And so I started telling them, you got to redo the logos. Well, then, one of the HR corporate, somebody in our corporate office, which I'm corporate, I'm the chief marketing officer of the company, but they were saying, well, you can't make everybody redo their name badges. Well, what happened was the employees started printing out labels and putting the new labels on their name badges, which told me they were drinking the Kool-Aid. They were getting it. They were getting behind it, all because I was running around with a pair of scissors threatening to cut people's name badges off, you know, and, and then I, renamed, we put out a video. It's called Booyah. And I renamed the hallway going into the cafeteria Booyah. I had the thing painted. I changed things around. I brought in old trade show booth stuff and put it around, decorated the hallways. I went through at night, and we had all these pictures that hadn't been updated since the 1970s. And here it was 2006, 2007. So I got a team together and we started taking down all the pictures and everything in the hallways. And then we started having contests of who could decorate the hallways. And, it was just fun. And so you had business units that were putting up pictures from trade shows and events and things like that were sitting in the closet. Now they're putting them up on the wall, and it's new stuff. It's new. It's just changing. So you can do it a lot of different ways. Right?
Those are great anecdotes.
I got to tell you, one of the other things I would host a table and put the word out that, hey, you want to come talk to me about anything in the company? I was, because there was we had an executive dining room. I said, let's get out of the executive dining room. Let's go with everybody else. And so then I started having different days at different buildings. We had 150, 180 buildings, something like that. And so I would go and have lunch at different buildings and then let people know I was there and, hey, let's come talk to me. And everybody knew you could come sit down with me. I didn't care. Like, Mr. Hayzlett, you're the first executive I've ever met. Well, hopefully I won't be your last one. Come on, sit down. Let's have some dinner. And you just start doing things like that. That changes mood. That helps change mood. That's leadership, in my opinion, of getting out there with people and going and seeing them. We were in the motion picture business, so I would get permission to show some of the movies early, or right when they came out, they would show to our employees because we helped make them. And we had a 4,000 person theater. And so I said, look, we got this new movie. It was Bolt. It was a Bolt. It was a animated movie about this fast dog or something. And I remember I put out the note and said, you want to bring your kids? Sign up. And we're going to show it. And they get free popcorn and a Coke. Pepsi or Coke, or whatever, and then they could bring their, and so, because why don't you bring your kids, right? Make them feel good about where mommy and daddy work. And then,
just
by the way,
working at Kodak would be a plus because of all these perks of the industry that they're in. I mean, those are great stories, and I'm sure anyone.
Oh yeah, and here, by the way, we had these cameras that were about to expire, so what we're going to do with them? And they said we're going to destroy them, and we're not destroying them. So here, I started handing them out. Here, take a camera. What the hell? Things like that. Or I actually bought the old NASCARs, our old NASCARs, the shells of the cars, and I put them in lobbies of the buildings, and then let the kids take their picture inside of it, right? Things like that. It's just like, why not? Right?
Oh, wow. You were a gift to that company.
Well, some people didn't see that. Although right before I left, one of the things I said, we're redecorating our headquarters lobby. And I pleaded with the CFO that we got to redo this. It's our first impression. And the first impression looks like crap. We haven't redone it since the 70s, 80s. It looks like crap. And I fought. And even with all the cuts we were going through, we redecorated that lobby. And when I left the company and to go and get on tour with my first book, which is The Mirror Test, a group of employees pulled together a little private ceremony for me, and they pulled up the carpet in the corner of the lobby, and embedded in the cement was my business card next to George Eastman's. And then we sealed it back. They sealed it back up, but that was to let them know that I had an impact on as much as George Eastman, which was a big thing for me. And I cried like a baby. They cried like babies. And of course, mostly it went through the, word of our, 50,000 employees at the time that they had done that. And it was a pretty cool thing. So I got notes after notes. So it was kind of a fun thing.
Thank you for sharing that story. That gave me a chill. That's lovely. Thank you. Now, one of the other rules is to chart progress. And one of the things I'm starting to learn is that if you can give the people that work with you a sense of progress, they're more likely to stay and not be, not go elsewhere. And also it helps to lift the mood. So charting progress, any stories around that?
Well, I just think I learned that years ago, back in about 1980 something, when I bought a print shop, and every day, the former owner showed me how to Z out. It's called a Z out on the cash register. And when you Z it out, it gives you a printout of what you did by some number of each department. And so wow, I wonder what we did yesterday. Wonder what we did the day before. Well, we didn't know. So let's start charting this out. So then we could predict it day to day. Did we do better than the day before? Did we doing better than the average for the week? Are we doing better from the average for the month? Are we doing better for the average for the entire year? And then how do we compare month to month, day to day, and year to year? I mean, that was it. And so I started putting that stuff up on the wall, and everybody in the print shop started to appreciate it because let's beat it. Let's beat it. Come on, we can beat it. And it might be, we're going to beat, blue ink. We're going to beat green ink. We're going to beat the color copies. We're going to beat the black and white. And so that's what we did. And so I learned the value real quick of one, measuring, right, in terms of, and then sharing with everybody else that this is where we're going to go and how could we beat it and how can we continue to grow. If you can't get there if you don't tell people where you're going. And so it's important for a leader to tell them where you're going to go. And by the way, make it even harder than what they think. And it's like a coach. If you remember sports, you probably did this when you were younger and you at gym class or whatever, and the coach would make you run laps or something. And then you're exhausted and you get to the end of it and you just ran 2 miles or whatever it is, or 10 laps or whatever. And you're exhausted. You're laying on the ground. They say, get up, do another one. And you think you're going to die, but you do another one and you don't die. That's what leaders are supposed to do. We're supposed to be a little irrational, and we tell people we're going to go from point A to point B, but we really tell them we're going to go to point C, and they think we're nuts. But you got to do that to get them to point B or a little beyond B.
Yeah.
And so we have to be a little irrational in the way in which we approach that. And so, and that's, measuring progress is part of that. Charting that progress is I think important to show people you can do it. I mean, you do that with your, if you go on a diet or, there's all kinds of different ways to do it, right?
Mm. And of course, some companies just keep it a secret how the company is going. And I'm of the belief that you really need to bring your employees into, how's the turnover? How's the profit? What are we doing? And get them excited and a bit of skin in the game.
Here's another example. I mean, I'm talking about that print shop. This is that goes back to my book, The Mirror Test. And I remember, I was in bad trouble, in bad cash, had lost my rear end, and things weren't going too well. And I remember I was watching every penny we had because I barely had enough to make payroll, barely had enough to pay the bills. And so, any big expenditure would just about put us down. And my manager at the time came into me and said, Jeff, you're not going to believe this, got a great deal for us. I bought a truckload of paper and I got this great deal on it. Well, that means he used up every penny that I had at the time. And I had, and I got to make payroll. I got to do all this. Now he's thinking he's doing a great job and trying to do something good for me. Hey, look at the savings he got for me. Right. Uh-huh. And yet he didn't know that he was about to put me down, put me under. Yeah. But it's because I didn't share with him. Right. So if I'm not sharing, if I'm not being transparent as a leader, how does he or she know to do the things I would like them to do based on the knowledge I have? So my job as a leader is to give you as much knowledge about how the business runs, the way it runs, where we're going and where we're at as pretty much I do. And some people say, well, why would you share that? You don't want them to know all that. Well, listen, when stuff's coming in the back door, COD, cash on delivery, because you don't have cash and you haven't paid the bills, right? They kind of know. When you're buying a new Mercedes, right? You're buying a new Mercedes and things are going pretty well, right? And if you're going on vacations, a cruise or whatever, yeah, they kind of know things are good and they know when things are bad. So what the heck? Just tell them. And it's better. It's just better to be transparent. I mean, and by the way, it also teaches them that you're confident about where you're at too, even if it's bad, right? Even if it's not going well, like we have a plan. And if we follow the plan, we'll be okay. You'll be okay. The one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to let you down. I'm not going to let you down. I'm not going to let you go. So I'm going to take care of you first. That's the most important, is the people, and, like we did that during COVID with our C-suite network. We didn't let anybody go. We kept everybody. We should have. I will tell you, there were people who deserved to go, and yet we didn't do it because that was our values. And we just said we weren't going to do it. But being transparent is important.
And that's an indication of how you demonstrate the care that you have for the people that work with you. So that's really wonderful, Jeffrey. We're sort of coming to the close of our time together, and I've just been loving all the stories that you've been sharing. And if you want to tell another story, that's fine. But one of my closing questions is, how can leaders administer the mirror test to their organization? We didn't actually list what the 3 mirror tests are, but maybe they need to read the book.
Read the book, or get the audiobook. I love that.
The audiobook is fabulous because you're reading it. It's pacey and it's great. I always love it when the author is able to read their own book.
If you come upon a body that look like it's injured or on the ground, the first thing you do is you hold up your brass buckle, or you hold up a mirror to them, and you see whether they're breathing.
Yeah.
And that's the mirror test. Do you fog the mirror? And there's certain things that you should look at in your business and ask some really hard questions. So you want to look in the mirror and ask yourself some key questions. And that's what the mirror test is about, because the only person that cares really about your business is the person that's looking back at you in that mirror.
Absolutely.
And that's what you have to do. So it's not your accountant, it's not your attorney, okay? It's not really your mom. She's going to love you anyway, and it's really you. And so the buck stops there. It's important for you to do that. And so you should, from time to time, sit back and ask yourself tough questions, because if you don't, nobody else is. And you need to see if you're fogging a mirror. And if you're fogging a mirror, you're breathing. And if you're breathing, you live another day.
Thank you, Jeffrey Hayzlett. This episode, we've been speaking with celebrity CEO Jeffrey Hayzlett on the Manage Self Lead Others podcast for people managers. I'm your host, Nina Sunday. And if you like this podcast, go and tell a friend. Many listeners I meet say they found it because someone sent them the link and told them it was a good show to listen to. And remember to subscribe so you catch the next episode. We've conversations with people who share insights on how to elevate and transform team culture. Connect with me on LinkedIn, tell me you like the show, and until next time, thank you for listening.
Nina Sunday is on a mission to help leaders transform culture. To book Nina Sunday CSP to speak at your conference, visit ninasunday.com to request a proposal. Nina travels from Brisbane, Australia for in-person presentations Australia-wide. Twice certified virtual presenter, Nina Sunday presents virtually, globally, for any time zone.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.